And here we go. Welcome to You Had Me at Halo's spoiler cast, where today we're going to talk about the 5th ever episode of the Halo TV show, which includes, but not limited to, lots of ass kicking, sad dads, and Spartans I'd like to have step on me for 500, Alex. After we're going to move on to episode number 47, where we have lots to cover for season 2 and future roadmap stuff to talk about. But first, my Spartan team, who always ask why. First up, we got Spartan Jesse, a.k.a. Mr. Don Cabeza.
You finally wrote an intro, huh? Pretty good. Hello, everyone.
Next up, we got Spartan Ursel, a.k.a. Mr. Soul Blazer.
Yo.
And if anybody doesn't know already, Soul is sick, so he's allowed to sound dead today. Next up, we got Spartan Daniel, a.k.a. Mr. Naudian. How you doing, Daniel?
Pretty good. Missed you guys last week, so it's good to be back.
Yeah, man. You picked a good episode to come back with us on. Finally, we got Spartan Austin, a.k.a. Mr. Pfhorbear.
Howdy, everybody. Let's prepare to drop, shall we?
All right, guys. So I won't waste any time because we got a lot to get into today. First off, obviously we're going to go through our spoiler cast. And I want to get some general thoughts. We've come out really, really mixed over the first 4 weeks, and I'm really interested in kind of hearing everybody's take. I know I was caught a little bit off guard this week, but let's go ahead and start with, so I want to start with you before you fall asleep. Kind of just some general feelings.
Like over high target?
Yeah, high level feelings, and then we're going to dive into the specifics here in a minute.
It was goddamn awesome. I love that episode, and I'll tell you, I summed the episode up as one way. The episode is good enough that I completely forgot about the Quan Ha storyline, which is a huge plus. So
yeah. Anytime there's things in the episode that makes you forget about that, because I was ready to bitch and then it turned, didn't it? I was ready to come in with my bitch list, but that was short-lived and fortunate. So how about you, Daniel? Last week you weren't here. I'm kind of curious what your general thoughts were this week.
Yes, so this was the first episode that I actually agreed with Ursula about Quan Ha. The less time that she was on screen because of the horrible writing decisions they've made with her, the better. Everything else was fantastic. I still, I mentioned it before about the way that they are depicting Halsey in the show. And I'm still not sold on the way that, because in the books and the games, she's obviously, she's hidden things from everybody else, but generally not usually her Spartans, at least not to the extent that they have in the show, where she's blatantly lied to them and rewritten their history, right? So I'm still not quite sold on that. I understand what they're doing, but it is a little bit weird. But everything else was fantastic. The action was great. The kind of progression that you see in addition to the last episode with Kai bleeding into this one, it's nothing but great in my opinion.
Yeah, I think right now we're kind of aligning a lot on this show. We did talk about this beforehand, if anybody's wondering. But Jesse, I want to move over to you real quick. Obviously, what were the things that stuck out to you the most this week?
There's a lot of me hearing myself because I'm bleeding through on your mic for some reason. If I mute you, I don't hear anything. But yeah, I don't know if you get speakers on or something, but...
Yeah, I hear it too.
Yeah,
do you really? Yeah. Well, hold it. How about now?
How about now? Do I hear me? I don't. No. You got it. Hey.
We need a pre-show checklist for Abe.
What the hell? Okay. Well, you know what? Move on to Pfhorbear after you're done, and I'm going to mess with some settings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty much the main fact that they really are advancing the chief not trusting Halsey and going to all these areas stuff. they spun the tires for like 10 minutes with Quan Ha and whatnot, and that's just, the low point of the show is when I was jumping over to her, because I'm guessing that what they're going to end up doing is she's obviously a spoiled brat, and she's just always been told by her dad these grandiose ideas, but she's never had to actually do any of it before, and she just thinks it's all going to kind of just happen because she's Quan Ha. Like, that's her whole character, and we're supposed to think she is a spoiled brat and not like her. But redeeming that is going to be really hard because she's so unbelievably unlikable. Yeah. But everything else is really good. Everything with Chief, with Silver Team, with the Covenant stuff, like all of that, seeing where Maki's going to be, because there's no chance they're going to trust her. There's already a preview up for next week where it's pretty clear they don't just say, hey, oh, you must be a refugee. Right. Like, it's not dumb writing. Hopefully that stuff has all been really good. I'm just wondering what the end game is going to be with Maki. And boy, is the build-up worth it for the action, because it's phenomenal when it happens. Friggin' grunts looking so goddamn grimy, and they look like they suck on farts for a living.
Do you think Maki, I was thinking about this the other day and I didn't get a chance to talk to you guys about it, but do you think Maki is going to be the arbiter proxy, in the sense that she's going to discover, obviously, that the great journey isn't quite the great journey that the Covenant's been promising, and she wakes up and smells the coffee? Do you think that's going to be what they do with her character?
Especially because, like, aliens are really expensive, and I think it's obvious when we only see them sparingly, and when it's like a combat scene or something, it's pretty clear that the episode's shorter because it takes up so much of the budget.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, you saw the one elite in this episode, they look really good. And making the Arbiter a human just completely dismantles so much of their story.
I'm not talking about making the Arbiter human. I mean,
she's like taking the role of the Arbiter.
A similar
of being the Covenant proxy that discovers that turns
they're
the tide.
All bullshit.
Covenant.
Yeah, the Great Journey's all horseshit, because I imagine she definitely does seem to be a bit wondering why this other guy can do the thing that only she was able to do before, which was activate the stuff. So it could lead to a decent back and forth. In that preview is very spoilery. Don't watch it if you don't like spoilers. So yeah, but also we got, and this is obviously a spoiler cast for the episode, we got to see a Brute, and he looked freaking awesome. And his face,
that was amazing.
Not his hair. He doesn't have the full hair, doesn't have the full beard, but his face and his look was very Atrioxy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are thinking that was a younger Atriox in this timeline. Because he's a lot more famous right now than Tartarus is. Like, people aren't going back to Halo 2 and 3 and, like Infinite and Halo Wars 2 and building up Atriox and all that stuff. It would make sense to use him in a role like that instead, and then it could maybe break off and splinter in a way it did before. Who knows? But yeah, I was really happy with that episode. That was good for the most part, outside of the Quan Ha stuff, which was boring, and then the end of it was just mwah. Oh.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into some of that stuff. By the way, is the bleeding stopped? The sound bleeding?
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
Okay, I think these were too loud. No?
Yeah, I kind of hear it a little bit. Yep.
What the heck? Really?
You have it?
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Pfhorbear, I'm going to tick it over to you, and then I'm going to bounce out and come back in and see if that helps. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought, I don't think that anyone would disagree here that this was by far the best episode that the show has had.
Yes.
Back in. Needs to bounce in quick so that we don't keep looking weird. I don't have 4 people set to go. Actually, I can do that real quick. Keep going.
Definitely. Like the funny little intricacies between, like, Chief literally just throwing a pistol at a grunt's head was hilarious, but works super well for the character. I think that the less Quan Ha we get right now, the better. Like, it was great that she was only in this episode for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Incredibly dumbfounding when she, like, gets the drop on a former Spartan and then holds him at gunpoint for the rest of the episode. Like, what? Everything else, though, I'm super into it. I'm vibing really hard with literally everything else that we're seeing. I'm into the Chief and Halsey's storyline right now. I think that there are some things that I'm definitely having to to ignore a little bit to not let it clash too hard of everything that we understand from
Though it's
core
nice
canon.
that they still gave like a humanizing moment to Halsey this episode. It was small, but I like that they
Right.
added that.
Oh, my daughter's in danger moment?
lamest thing
Yeah.
the lamest thing was I legitimately got a little choked up. I don't know why. It's been a weird week for me anyway, but seeing Halsey like run out and grab Miranda like that, I was like, oh, she loves her.
I did like just how
way.
freaked
Yeah,
out she was
right.
in that whole battle. I'm like, yeah, Halsey, this is
Yeah.
ground combat. This is the stuff you never see because you're sitting in your ivory tower making these decisions, you know?
I think, yeah, I'm excited to see where the Maquis stuff goes. Personally, I don't anticipate her being the Arbiter equivalent. I feel like with her being human, there may be a few Sangheili that would side with her, but for the most part, I think that they would just be like, no, she's a human, like she's a traitor. She was always going to be a traitor.
So I don't mean really quick. I don't mean that she is this universe's version of the Arbiter.
No,
I mean,
100%.
Yeah, just.
But yeah, no,
I
I
mean,
guess
like the first
if you
Covenant-
specifically only mean like the first member of the Covenant that does come to terms with it, I can totally see that happening.
Right.
I had a weird thought during this episode when Maquis drops down and then seeing the preview for next episode, that she has a line that really makes me think that this is possible. I wonder if they're going to try to make it so that Chief and Maquis are like closely blood related.
Interesting.
I don't think that it's a good move. I don't really anticipate it happening, but I was like, what an interesting way to like mess up the momentum
What
they
if
have with
she
this.
was the dog?
Oh, like that anime. What the hell is it called?
Oh, Full Metal Alchemist.
Yes.
Oh my god, with the professor and oh man. Oh,
Mhm.
Yeah.
20 years later, still
That'd be
cuts.
interesting.
I thought it was a fantastic episode. A lot of very cool, a lot of very fun combat. Love the jackals with the energy blades. From like Halo Reach stuff. I thought it was great. Watching the Spartans like actually kick ass for an episode was super satisfying.
Yeah,
I'm
really
trying
quick. I was
again.
just going to say
go
that the exchanges between Kai and the other two that still have their pellets in just gold.
And felt like they fit, like even as Spartan characters. Like I love, you see Chief occasionally in some of the expanded universe, like crack like little one-liners and jokes and stuff, and he did it in the games even. But to hear, oh god, I can never remember his name.
Vanek?
Vanek. So, like call her a dumbass, basically, was
Kind of
so
dumbass
good.
question of that.
Right.
All right,
Abe,
guys,
how's your
we're
mic
gonna try
working?
Yeah, how do I sound now?
You're a little low. I'll turn you up in a second.
All right.
But much better otherwise.
Yeah,
Some
and
great
so
lines.
just- yeah, and I figured out what the hell I was doing. I'm embarrassed, but anyways, I got a new mic not too long ago, and it's still defaulting. It was defaulting to my camera for some reason. So, yeah. Anyway, so a real dumbass thing there. So I'm the one who's got whatever seeping down to my brain. So just kind of my overall thoughts. I think I'm not going to spend too much time on my overall ones right now because I think I'm echoing a lot of what you guys are saying. The one thing I will say though that kind of caught me off guard, is that despite how mixed I was, and I think mixed is maybe the nicest way of saying it for the first 4 episodes. They did a good job, I think, up to this point, making us care about some of these characters. That I think that the action scene didn't turn out to be just a dumb action scene, right? Like you still had people out there that you cared about, and so that's something I kind of want to dive into because I think it's really going to be. That's really where the potential of the show is. Like we now can see where the upside is, and the last few minutes of the show where, all the action hit, it felt like a spiritual version of the game live on the screen.
Yep.
I fully got all the vibes with Cortana yelling in his ear. The
Slip space rupture detected.
man.
I was like,
God. Instant chills. Instant.
Yeah.
and really so much practical stuff. Like a lot of the explosions all right there happening in screen, right next to actors. Really well done.
You can see that, yeah.
So much.
I'd love to know, and I'm sure that we'll find out as the show goes on, but Cortana's inability to pull Spartan records, the way that she explains that to Chief comes across as very genuine. Like it sounds like she genuinely cannot find access or find the records. That literally just leaning directly into her sounding just as anxious about a slip space rupture sounded like made the line about not being able to have or find records on the Spartan program that much more genuine, that it was the same infliction when she was like, guys, like shit's bad right now.
Yeah.
So how about let's start with some of the characters. So some of you guys mentioned Kai already, which I feel like she's starting to become one of my I'd say one of my favorite people in the show.
Really good actress. She's
she's like her mannerisms, right, and even the dialogue that she's getting seem like it just seems so much better than what they're giving Quad Ha right now. Whoever's it can't be the same writer. I mean, that just like there's such a difference.
I know that's sarcasm, and this is going to sound super weird, but I'm starting to go on the opposite side here, where I'm like, these writers aren't blind, right? They're not dumb. At least I assume they're not. So when they make a character that's so clearly disliked, right, by everyone, there's no way you can write a character how she is in this episode and be like, oh yeah, people will love this. No, it doesn't make any sense. I think they're setting up some kind of big character-defining moment for her, some kind of big 180, some kind of big twist.
Where she realizes how wrong she's been.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I hope it's something like, hey, we finally took over and we got rid of the rebels or got rid of the UNSC, and then, hey, the Covenant don't need magical anymore. And, you know.
And it's just like what I was saying the other week about Cortana and how, like, they're going to have to do a massive shift, to make it believable that Chief trusts her, that she's able to be relied upon and not just a pawn of Halsey and the UNSC. Same thing with Quan Ha. They're going to have to do something. It has to feel earned. And right now, like because I was one of her biggest defenders up to I think episode 4, because the way I took it was that she, you called her a princess, right? But she's the quote unquote princess of an insurrection. So it's even if you had, grassroots money, that runs out fast. You're not living, large like a quote unquote princess would be. So but with this episode especially, you really see that she's just extremely naive and sorry, my cats are in here now. Just completely detached from reality at this point, because at that point the insurrection is essentially dead, right? And the UNSC isn't quite the evil, obviously components are. We've seen Halsey and how her treatment of human beings and life.
The ends justify the means.
Right. But it's not believable thus far at this point. Just how
the drop on Soren.
Stupid.
Come on.
Yeah, and that too. Like there was just some real bad characterization, I think, in this episode for her.
Yeah, that side of the show definitely leans into the TV tropes where people just behave stupidly to get plots going. Yet it's funny because in that one, the plot didn't do anything.
Right.
They somehow spent 10 minutes and all that changed was now instead of her being handcuffed to a bike, he's knocked out.
Right.
Like 10 minutes of a 40-minute long episode to do that. It's just like, come on. But everything else? Chef's kiss.
Well, and even the setup for next episode, like the Maquis being there with Chief and with Halsey and all of that, like that's some amazing setup. And I obviously I'm being sarcastic when I say this, but I can't wait to see how they mess it up by just having too much Quan Ha in the episode. Like I'm so over it at this point. Just like wrap it up. Let's get back to Chief. I don't care if you kill her off. I don't care if like naked dude in the hot tub like goes and like falls down a flight of stairs and dies. Like whatever it has to be, end it so that I can see the cool shit again.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
seriously.
And so I'm gonna have to disagree with you a little bit. I think like no matter how much they're making her unlikable, it's not just that she's unlikable. I think people just don't like the setup for the character. Like it's like Joffrey was unlikable in Game of Thrones, but he was an awesome character up to that, to when they killed him, right?
And you weren't supposed to like him, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, same with like Cersei. She's a really well-written dickhead.
Yeah, so that works. Like her, I just feel like you don't even know what they're trying to do with her right now. And she's just dumb. I think it's frustrating when characters just do dumb shit.
And she threw a gigantic temper tantrum, which really does just tell you she is a gigantic baby.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they posited her as a sympathetic character
in the beginning.
At the gate, yeah, right out of the gate. But then they switch. She's no longer.
She was a filthy druggie. They're going in that forest to do the
Like-
shrooms.
But
I feel like
you
the-
have no like sympathy for her at this point. So her entire like character linkage is gone. So
And any sympathy you had for her, the moment she puts a gun on Soren, it's like, yeah, okay, you know, everyone here only likes Soren, right?
How dare you?
Like,
He's the coolest character.
Yeah.
well, yeah, and he's the one who kept her alive.
Hmm.
You know, the last 3-4.
and Soren
episodes.
keeps saying, like, I'll leave you. He's not. He's clearly
Right.
doing different than what he's saying.
Right.
Feel bad for him.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we're all, I think we all in agreement on that. So we're just going to basically say that part of it sucks. Now let's get back to some of the stuff that we really didn't get to talk about.
Cortana and Chief.
Yeah.
Their interaction. Yeah, their interaction has been so good. Like her starting to make fun of him a bit.
Yeah.
Like when he says, "Can you stop talking? I can't hear myself think." And she just replies, "I can, and trust me, you're not missing much." It's like jumping between that and then the battle combat with her calling things out, and then him with the funny dumb line of "I know how to play the game." Like they're putting their best into the thing that matters the most on the show, which is going to be, I think, their relationship. I think it's going to really build.
Yeah.
From a I don't think Cortana has already seemed very sort of put off at how little anyone listens to or trusts her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she'll, after knocking him out when he was going to super punch, friggin', because he's at that point.
Punch.
Yeah, at that point he was just completely like his mind was all messed up from touching that thing, and she lied to him again, and he knows she's lying, so he's like, "Ah!" But then she knocks him out. But I do think, like in the future, if there'll probably be a time where Halsey's going to be like, "Hey, you should knock Chief out or something," and she won't do it and gain his trust that way.
Yeah,
That's what I
I
think.
agree with you, Jesse. I think they're doing, like, she didn't have a lot of lines in this, but I think what they're doing is they are setting the tone for that interaction, which, you know, I like that she's got a little bit of that, I don't know if sassy is the right word, but, you know, just kind of the way that she's kind of ribbing him in that one scene, and then just kind of their back and forth, right? Like where he's just telling her to be quiet, and she's kind of getting a little snippy with him, and I think that makes it could be an interesting dynamic. I don't know that that's necessarily, you know, something you ever feel in the games, but I think that works in the TV show, right? There's places they could take that.
Yeah, because the games, it's you're in control, so that they're generally not going to do things that are like, so much of it is just like getting to action and stuff. There's not a ton of character buildup in most Halo games. It really is just getting moment to moment when you're playing. So
even the cutscenes are just one-liners usually.
Well, you get some of that interplay in especially like Halo 4, for example.
Mhm.
You know,
I'm thinking
which
Bungie
then
games.
people, I always end up going to what Abe and people who like the Bungie games the most too, which is when there was almost none of that. The one thing you did get in like Halo 3 was Cortana making you walk really slow, that I always fucking hated. Where you would zoom out and the interplay and talking was really good in 4, and I missed it in 5. They did it with the team, but I like the Cortana Chief stuff constantly.
and
I
you get
really
some
like
of that.
that's come off.
I mean, I guess what I was trying to say is you do get some of those punchy lines even in the original trilogy. I mean, in 3, when Cortana says, "Let me guess, what are you going to do? Blast your way out?" And Chief says, "Yeah, of course," or something to that effect.
What do you think? Or something like that?
Yeah, something. Yeah, so you do get some of that, and what I appreciate about like what Abe was saying, in that it's they're utilizing Cortana intelligently. It's not all the time, and they're for me, as somebody who just watched and was super disappointed with No Way Home, it's really nice to see fan service done well and subtly. Like the slip space rupture detected.
So
Most people won't know what that is, but like anybody who's played the games will know immediately and say that's freaking awesome that they just a simple line, and those fans know exactly what that is. They're drawn back. That's fan service done well. And I just it's been really nice to see the last 2 episodes where they've started to do those things.
I hate to pull attention away from it, and I apologize. I was answering an email that I got, so you guys may have already said this. The other line in this episode that I thought was done better than it was recently done in another game was I need a weapon. And then Cortana's response to it, which was it's not going to help.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I think that weirdly, I do think that the show pulled it off better than Halo Infinite's like intro cutscene did. I thought that, just like you guys were saying, like the little references and Easter eggs and stuff that are in the show that are there for the fans that are watching it. I think that they've been doing a pretty good job with all of that stuff.
And that's
I know
really
how the
interesting,
game.
right? yeah, I know how the game is
I know how the
played,
game's played.
like everybody,
that line.
everybody. Yeah, that's what was so interesting about this episode, because they spent 4 episodes basically saying, "Hey, this isn't your Halo. This isn't like we're going to show butt cheeks, and we're going to take off the helmet, and we're going to do all that stuff." And then it was like it was a lot of fan service in this one to people who play the game, right? Or the people that
He
know the lore.
hijacked a banshee.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I mean,
And
it
a
was
grunt
the video
hijacked
game.
a warthog.
And then Chief
And
hijacked
someone when the grunt did that, someone translated and he just said, "Oh no, I don't know how to drive this."
That's amazing.
And there was even fan service for like book readers, dude. We finally
Right.
got Spartans sprinting as fast as warthogs. And
Exactly.
Yes,
so
that
well
was
done.
pretty sweet.
I will say I'm bummed out that anytime anyone has to share a secret that they don't want one of the Spartans to know, they just whisper about it, and like that does go against like Spartan canon. But
Yeah.
if you're gonna show me warthogs running as fast as, or Spartans running as fast as a warthog, and then Chief like killing a dude out of a banshee, and then just like parasailing it down into a phantom,
Yeah,
That's
just like
fine. You can
yanking
whisper all you
down on
want
the
there.
wing to get it right into a phantom.
Right.
Oh,
Keith's
so
face
good.
after that, Keith's just like, "What the
Yeah,
heck is that?"
Yeah.
they all were. They're like, what the fuck?
Which this is a bit of a tangent or another topic, but I think that scene right there is going to be the catalyst for basically saying, "Hey, the Chief that we know from the games, the one that does all the crazy and like stupidly insane stuff, is the Chief without the pellet, right? So if you want a Chief that's able to do that stuff, you need to take the pellets out. That's the way I'm thinking of it."
I don't know. I never really thought about
There was
that.
some good alien gore in this one
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
I just now what you just showed, Jesse, with the jackal like pulling half of
Mhm.
his body out, did not realize that watching it the first
Oh
time.
yeah.
Really, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I
did
pointed that
not
out.
catch on to that at all. I thought he was going to get up and fight Chief. Did not realize he couldn't get up and fight
No, they
Chief.
went straight Black Hawk down with this one.
I mean, hey, we went to more backsides, well, we got the insides.
Oh, yeah, that's how you go one step further, right?
One thing I wanted to
Uh,
mention. Sorry, hey, Matt, go, man. I've been cutting you off.
No, I was gonna say, speaking of the gore, finally got to see what a Needler kill looks like in
Oh
real
my
life.
god.
That was
Mhm.
rad.
Yeah, that
And
was
they
amazing.
hyped
The
it up,
pink-
too.
The pink mist.
Talk about the pink mist. Yeah, man,
Yeah.
that was sick.
That leads me into the thing where, Abe, you're right. You're saying that what Halo does and what it's done twice now is action scenes that have impact, right?
Mhm.
I watch a lot of television, and anyone these days probably is watching Marvel shows. And one of my main complaint in the Marvel shows was their combat, their choreography, their action is generally pretty subpar for the TV shows, in my opinion. Other than like 1 or 2 fights in Hawkeye, the first episode of Moon Knight, blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, this is cool, but this is just like, give me the more interesting stuff.
Oh yeah,
Right?
if you watch Iron Fist and you think those fight scenes
Oh,
are
God.
good, you're drunk.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
And then Halo comes, and it's like, yes, we've only had 2 major action sequences in 5 episodes. I get that. But what amazing sequences, man. And one it's going to be rewatching and talking over it again. And I'm going to probably watch the show with my family again. You know, things like that. Like, if it was just normal action, I'd be like, yeah, whatever, right? Like, the one, for example, the action we got in the previous episode where he's on the bike running.
Mhm.
That's like normal turn my head off action that I don't really care about. But this action it keeps you engaged. When Chief gets up after that crash, and you can just feel like the rage like permeating off him, the little like neck movement left and right, like, let's go. I was worried the scene was going to stop there, but then no, it goes on even longer, and just so good.
Well, so the build up, I think that's a good topic, actually. Not one that I had down here, but really kind of looking at the action. And that's one of the reasons that like this episode also stood out, because I think you're right. Like when I watch, again, I'm not anti-Marvel or anything like that, but a lot of times when I watch those things, they just kind of blend together, like Michael Bay movies, right? You watch Transformers and it's like, yeah, all this stuff like in a little teeny, a few scenes, like it might make good, screenshots or look cool in a commercial, but when you're watching, it's just like, okay, like why does that matter? What does that matter? It's like just showing you one cool thing after another. Whereas this was like almost like they're playing capture the flag. It was like when they're going for the what do you call it?
The artifact, yeah, good point.
Artifact,
Actually,
yeah. When they're going for the artifact, it's almost like you're playing.
It's an invasion match, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that. Huh.
And so like you have this like this tug of war for that thing, and I just thought that the way they did it was really cool. I mean, just with all the callbacks, the fact that he had to go back and get her, like, so it wasn't just empty action. It's like you kind of felt like from her angle, her kind of suddenly ingesting all the violence around her and paralyzing her a little bit, and then suddenly she's in trouble, and like you were mentioning,
she's getting shell shock for the first time.
Yeah,
Really,
and you can read all her symptoms, but it's not meant for you to read it while you're watching it because it's backwards. But it's there. They put it into the scene.
Right. Yeah, and just like they show her kind of like like zooming in to try to cover, like they added an element, and I'm not saying it's like super duper deep, but God, you don't even get even like any layers of strategy or anything. Usually it's just a bunch of scenes sort of fast cut with each other, and here is like like there seemed to at least be a purpose with each scene. And then, like you were mentioning with the finishing off with the Banshee, like how he redirected it, like, and that's something that you could see happen in the games, or
easily.
When he's doing that fight and he throws a pistol at the grunt, like right after that, when he grabs a shotgun, he then blocks a few shots and saves a Marine,
love that.
Without hesitation, just does it, saves him, makes sure he's okay, then massacres another 5 people. So
These people, throws the weapon backwards without even looking.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was very well choreographed.
And Abe, a lot of the things you mentioned were built up from the previous episodes. We had an entire episode about Kai and her emotional breakthroughs, and like she wasn't entirely stable, right? And it's because of that build up, that the scene where she's like losing it hits as hard as it does. Because without those scenes of her talking more, seeing more, really trying to think this is a great thing, you don't get that payoff. Well, so I know a lot of people complain about the slower episodes, but if done well, they really add even to the action, like the Needler, right? We have Vanek go pink mist.
Well, yeah, I mean, the world building is absolutely necessary, and I think they've done, like, this show's done a great job using the foreshadowing tool, because right before, they deploy, Chief tells Kai, you're not, battle ready. You're not. You've never been in a fight since you've taken your pellet out, and they utilize that. Like, it's not just a throwaway line. It's not just a throwaway scene to put her in a different location, right? It's to showcase that, in this universe, the Spartans have never been in battle without their pellets, right? So like you said, they're experiencing shell shock for the first time, or at least Kai is. So I thought that was really well done, and the show so far, like, if you go back, this is the only one I haven't watched multiple times before we've had our podcast, and if you go back and watch the other ones, though, they do that throughout the series, which foreshadowing is one of the most common tools in film, obviously, but to do it well is still a rarity, I think, in TV, and this one does it.
This is the only episode I've seen twice, for reference, before we did the podcast.
And by the way, Trav said in the chat that this episode's director is also doing 6, 8, and 9. So
nice.
That's positive. Yeah, I mean, now
he makes bad movies, but he just made a really good TV show.
That means episode 7's all about Quan Ha.
Oh God.
Well, I'm not expecting any action at all next episode. Not even like a little bit.
No, you gotta have to slow down. And that's it. I did hear some. I was listening to some other impressions about this as well, and some people were like, "I hope."
What was Angry Joe saying?
Oh God.
No, I don't listen to his impressions. But like like some people were saying like, "Oh, I hope they keep up this pace," and it's like, no, I don't think that necessarily. Number one, that would work. Eventually, again, I always go back to Game of Thrones because it was my favorite show and then most disappointing show of all time, both, right? The first few seasons and the last few. And the last few is when they started to, bring in those action, those expensive episodes back to back to back. And it was just, it just became a blur. And it became what you were saying there, Sol. Everything just kind of blurred together, right? So I think you're going to need to do that roller coaster. You're going to have to develop them. My complaint, I think, early on, I mean, it took a while to get used to what they're doing differently from the games and stuff like that. And I think some of that, still, that may still be something that kind of sits out there, but it was more to do with like the details of the writing, and so where they've hit the writing well though, like with the stuff they've done with Kai, I think that paid off here. And I would even say the keys, like there's, I don't feel like I've had many cringe moments with them in the first few. And I thought that the stuff that's going on with them and Halsey was pretty good too. What did you guys think about those three? Like, are you liking that dynamic?
I've really liked Miranda. Jacob hasn't gotten to do as much, but when he does, it's really obvious that he knows how to play the game, but he doesn't like doing it. He wants to help his daughter, but he also knows he needs to keep her out of all the dark shit that they were a part of.
Yeah.
Like,
that exchange between him and Chief when he has to lie for what seems probably like the first time that he's had to lie to Chief. That the facial expressions were.
They were phenomenal. I couldn't tell if Chief could figure it out. If he couldn't, I couldn't tell if he could figure it out.
I don't think Chief's trusting anyone outside of Silver Team right now.
Which is wise.
Well, and all of the build up to the Cortana relationship, I think we might even get to the point where he trusts Cortana more than he trusts
she
literally
sides
anybody.
with him when she learns more.
Yeah.
I don't think she's got Halsey's evil.
Well, because I think and I think that she does have like a genuinely thinking mind. She is a not necessarily categorized as such in the show, but is a smart AI, even in this iteration of it.
So really quick, the Spartan 2. God damn it, Abe! I keep interrupting you. The Spartan 2 files are hidden from Cortana as well, right? Or no? I wasn't sure about that.
Well, that's what I'm thinking is that they are hidden from her as well. You get the same inflection in her voice when she's talking about
she
that.
Sounded genuinely surprised that there's just no record.
She had no access. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
all right, now to cut off Abe. Let me Sorry.
You son of a bitch. I was going to say something else about Keys before we moved on from him. I do feel like I do like what they're doing with him because he's not a black and white character, right? Like he is a conflicted. He does look like a sad dad. He fit it perfectly in a Sony game right now. He is somebody that you could tell he really cares about his daughter. He's trying to protect her, and and again, for somebody that's like me, who's
the dad?
My oldest is a girl. It's like, you could kind of like connect to him and see that, he's got to deliver difficult messages to her to try to protect her. And it's like, I feel like most parents can kind of relate, even though, I could even relate to being, like his ex-wife in a way. I don't know if they were actually I think my ex was Halsey at sometimes, but so I could feel like maybe it's just me personally feeling that dynamic there, but
no, it was done well this episode.
Yeah,
it really was.
That stuff was done well.
And they spent last episode building up Miranda from the first couple you don't really see her too much, and again it just really pays off. So much of the good of this episode was a clear payoff from previous setup. Which
I feel like that's something that we've been talking about for a while, right? Like, the show is starting incredibly slow, but it is eventually going to lead to a moment like what we got in this episode where there was some genuine tension when you were like, oh man, like who knows? But any of these characters, I guess, could die.
Kai could have died. I was legitimately worried. I mean, especially because the episode was called Reckoning, and the next one's called Solace. Like, I'm like, man, are they going to kill Kai? Like, flip. That worked for me.
And one of the things that I like about Miranda's like her, because in the games, obviously she's more in line with her father, right? She was the military, she was a military asset. She wasn't a scientist like she is in here. So like leaning more on the mother's side, I think is going to be potentially interesting if they utilize that conflict between her and Halsey's, scientific minds. Like it could be extremely interesting to see how things play when other Spartans start taking out their hormonal pellets and start, actually realizing the deception that Halsey's led, through all their lives. So it'll be interesting if they play that.
And Daniel, to your point, I think they're doing a good job setting that up again with actually good writing this time with Kai. Do you ever wonder why you never ask why? Like I thought that was probably one of the better scenes in the whole show, actually. you know, and it is like foreshadowing, right? Like
Right.
now it's continued to build that up for the other Spartans.
I am with
Hopefully.
Travis in his post on the forum, and I do think that if they do remove Vanek's pellet, that he doesn't change at all. He's
I
the
would love
exact
that.
same person.
I really
And that would
I
work.
really
Actually.
loved Kai's reaction to Vanek's response, where it wasn't like she felt bad for asking or was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. But she had this look on her face like, fucking okay, dude, I guess, whatever. I thought it
Metal
was
for me, I guess.
perfect. Yeah, right. Okay, I'll go fucking talk to somebody else then now.
Yeah, the dialogue in this episode is fantastic.
Yeah, I do hope Riz and Vanek get a little bit more to work with as the season progresses. But
Right. Yeah.
And so one thing you called out too is like you didn't know what was going to happen with Kai. I think that is the one advantage that not following the games is going to have for the show, because you don't know they can whack anybody at any time. I mean, other than Master Chief.
Yeah.
I mean,
everyone's fair game, and Halsey, I guess
With
technically.
Mafia and Halo.
Yeah.
Whack
No,
it
but-
anytime.
You're right though. That is still a worry, right? Because it's like they've even mentioned already that they've already lost a Spartan in a mission. So they've talked about how Spartans have died, right? So they leave that door open. They spent, if you've seen any kind of anime, you know, the moment you get character development for a character that's not the main character, ooh, they done.
Red shirts.
they done the next episode. You know what I mean? So they set that up for Kai from the previous episode. Hey, let's focus on Kai. Let's make everyone like her. Then boom, pull the rug out, right, and kill her. And then they played that off in this episode too, right? But then they went and juxtaposed, contrasted it with Chief's need to focus on the mission, or focus.
I just love
I
how
can't say
you
big
grab
words
on
right
that.
now. My breath runs out halfway through the big word.
Well, when you use a word that big, you're just not going to make it through. Not today.
But when they contrast like Chief's like focus on the mission to Chief focusing on, no, I'm saving my family, basically, right? And I loved that moment for the Chief. The only part of this episode for the Chief that I thought was a little iffy was the Falcon Punch, but whatever, man. It was like 2 seconds. It's done. It's over. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I solid episode, guys. Anyway, Jesus.
If I stop talking, just first off, okay, you guys got to cut me off. I can't end.
No, you're
Man.
We're just
fine,
waiting
fine.
for you to run out of air and pass out, and then I was going
right
to take over, not
halfway
worry
between
about you.
juxtaposed. It was great.
Yeah.
No, like I mean, I don't know. I feel like not to like try to hurry it along or anything. Like, please, like let's keep expounding on it if we can. But like, I feel like we all really agree that like, man, this would be dope if we got this every week. It's understandable why we can't. You know, the show doesn't have a $1 billion budget or anything like that. This was absolutely amazing. I loved this. I look forward to seeing if something like maybe a season finale can live up to this.
Reach is
Super
about
cool.
to get destroyed.
Super cool.
I think that's going to happen in the finale.
I don't know, man. Like I
Anything
think it
can
will
happen
too, but like who
So-
knows?
People think that Maki, they'll take Maki in and take her to Reach, right? Because another human. But if they're being suspicious of her, then hey, I could see that not happening.
Dude,
I don't
what
know.
a cool way for the Covenant to have found Reach in the show, because like the preview that they showed for next episode seems pretty likely that they're on Reach.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're going back to base, right? And they've still got that one artifact they have to protect. So
Yes, exactly. Also,
And now
the
the
Chief
shield.
using the Jackal's shield. Ah, man, so good. I didn't expect it at all, and it just I can rewatch this action scene like 4 or 5
And
times.
seeing a brute. Just seeing a brute.
Yes,
Yeah, that was
absolutely.
Yeah,
All right.
baby Atrix.
We've seen
So
almost
I'm gonna-
everything. We just haven't seen like a freaking an engineer.
Or
We've seen about
Hunter,
everything
like
else.
in full form. Which
Yeah,
we're
we
definitely
saw
getting
Hunter's
there.
leg.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use
So
that
cut off
moment.
Abe again. Oh,
I'm going to use that moment and try to move it along, because we do have a lot to get to.
Oh, yeah.
it was a
but
busy
part-
week.
Yeah, and part of what we need to get to as well is I do want to get an overall. We're halfway now through this season. This is the halfway point. This episode. So I think it'd be so first we'll go around and give the scores for this episode. Then I want to come back around and get everybody's feelings for and just kind of score the first half of the season as a whole, and then maybe just some overall feelings on that. So we'll go ahead. I'll start with you this time, Pfhorbear.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'd say that this is definitely the best episode that the show's had so far. And even then, like there are some moments where I was like, Falcon Punch, anything that Quan was in. I I think I would give this episode the highest I've given an episode, which is a solid 8, maybe even an 8.5. I think the show is still on a pretty steady trajectory. This episode definitely made up some ground for it. I'd say overall, this show's sitting around a 7.5 for me right now.
Okay, sounds good. How about you?
Pretty
Jesse?
good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, this one I'd be around. I was like 8.5. If you take out Quan, it could be there. Just the uselessness of that subplot taking a quarter of the episode. If it was all on, if it was half an hour and all everything else, it would be like a 9 because it was all really good. But her stuff drags it down and takes enough time where I'd probably go like 8.25 just to annoy Abe at the score. So we'll go.
Me.
Okay. Oh yeah, it's really sick who hates anything that's not 0.0.5. I got to start going back to like 8.8 on reviews just to annoy him and Nick. But yeah, so I'd go a solid 8.5 on the episode. And the season's been, because of how much the Quan Ha stuff has just taken up time and not really done much to make me like her, I'd probably go about 7.5 on the season. Because I've liked the other stuff, I've really liked everything with Chief and Halsey and Silver Team, like all that stuff, and the Covenant side of it, I've liked quite a bit. But the Quan Ha stuff really just keeps going in circles. So
Yeah, no, that's fair. Daniel, how about you?
I'm actually going to be the outlier and give this one a 9. I really dug it.
I was close.
Yeah. Well, I've usually been on Abe's side of scoring things a little bit lower than you guys. So I think because of this episode, and I actually enjoyed last episode too a lot. I think, I'd have to give this show pretty much a 7.5. If you remove this episode, it probably drops it down to 7. But I think so far they're like Pfhorbear saying, they're kind of on an upward trajectory. They're finding their footing. They're some of those seeds that they planted in the first few episodes are starting to sprout, and I think it's working out pretty well, except for Quan Ha.
Well, I can do something fun and dumb for you, Dan. Hold on. This will be good. You'll like this. All right. Boop. There we go. All right. There's your score.
I can't.
You'll see in a second.
I want the delay catches up.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Oh,
Jeff. That's
that's
beautiful.
cool. That's cool.
All
Just
right.
don't do a
so
7.4 or 7.7.
7.7 is the one you never
Yeah,
made.
yeah.
your turn.
Yeah, so to prove Nadian wrong and say he is not an outlier, I am a sucker for really well done action sequences. Like straight up, that they'll elevate an entire movie for me.
I love Michael Bay.
Well, no, Michael Bay is usually not good action sequences, right? That's the issue.
Agreed. It's just explosion.
Something like Shang-Chi, overall relatively average film, but the action was just done so well that I loved it, right? And this same thing, man, a 9, an easy 9 for me. As I said when I first started, it literally, I forgot about the Quan Ha parts.
Yep, same.
Like by the time the episode ended, and I'm like, holy crap, the show did it.
Would have been a 10 if there were more lens flares.
So in
DM
terms
me
of-
your overall score for the season so I can have it queued up.
in terms of the overall score, it's the same as all of us, a solid B, which is 7.5. I think it's been an Canada, all right, Canadian system. It's been an upwards trajectory.
That's a C in America.
A 7.5 here is 75.
down,
It's a solid B, and I think it's pretty fair. Where the show's moving up. This episode was really fun. Honestly, I feel like if the first episode ended with the action sequence, I'd probably score it higher too. It's just I love things that end on a high, So hey, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you remember, right? And it's kind of funny that and Daniel, you said like you were like on the lower end. I've been on the lower end. I think I've been the lowest so far up to now in the season.
I'm giving it a 10.
Huh?
Oh.
No. I'm not giving it. Stop it.
Sounds pretty right, Jesse.
Who's the outlier now?
No, I've been solidly, right after the show. I said it was like a 9. Maybe even low 9s. It just for me, like this was. In previous episodes, I've pretty much been in that like 6 to 7 range for everything, probably averaging it out to about 6.5. But this one was probably one of the reason why I'm putting it at a 9. It's one of those things where, and I think so to your point, it's like the sum ends up being greater than the parts. Maybe if you were to really divide this up and try to be really objective about it and grade it like a movie aficionado.
So miserable about it, basically.
Yeah. I mean, you go, oh, there's no way this is a 9 because this and that, and yeah, like the Superman punch was a little cheesy. The Quan Ha stuff wasn't good, but at the end of the day, like I found myself by the end of the episode, like not even just the ending, like the build up, because you could kind of feel it coming. I thought they did a really good job, just kind of like building it up and then just sticking the landing. It was probably some of the most fun I've had on a TV show at that moment for a while. And I'm sure a lot of that is because I'm a Halo player. I like that. I like Halo, and they did a lot of the fan service stuff that really appealed to me. And so yeah, this is by far the best of the season, and I do think that brings up the season, because I was probably if you were to ask me after 4 episodes, I probably would have given the season about a 6.5. I think right now I'm probably high 7s. I mean, almost an 8, because, and the only reason I say that is like there's a lot of, being honest, there's still a lot of cheese through the first 4 episodes. I don't need to see anybody's ass anymore. It's not doing anything for me. Like there's been some, inconsistent special effects, some bad writing, but here's at the end of the day, we are through 5 episodes, and I'm looking forward to the second half, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got me invested in the characters. They got me excited about some of the potential of the show. They did some callbacks that made me, as a Halo fan, it pleased me. And I do think sometimes it's not, taking the average of the averages. It's like the same way with games, right? You remember like the thing that really stands out that maybe makes that game for you. There could be a lot of rough edges, but I think of like a Dark Souls game, right? Like there's a lot of rough edges in those games, but at the end of the day, that always feels like a, mid-9 for me, because what it does well, it pulls me in. And so
it's
I
greater
think
than the sum of its parts, basically.
Yeah. So yeah. I do feel like this one gets me close to that. So a lot of hope going forward, and hopefully, I don't expect that kind of action next week, but hopefully they can get the writing better and continue to move in that direction. But
yeah, it's really get the writing better around the Quan Ha stuff, because I'm pretty confident on the main storyline. It's just their B plot is just
like, sorry, Nadia. Yeah?
I was gonna say the dichotomy between Soren and Quan is frustrating too, because like Soren's motivations. He's written well. He's funny. He's serious when he needs to be serious, and she's just at least it was believable the first couple episodes, but now it's just so one note, and it's so unwavering and unlearning that it's frustrating. It's just badly written.
I was going to say
everyone I know and all my dad's lieutenants are all dead. I'm still going to be a douche and say I've got. But if I fight, then this whole
it's just
freaking planet. That
you're not
planet's
going to get that
getting
many
glassed.
You're not going to get that many stealth kills.
Yeah.
No one's going to follow anyone with that goddamn haircut.
One thing this episode did, which actually addressed my primary concern of the whole show, which was the scale of the Human Covenant War. Immediately, their giant whatever class cruiser ship just dies instantly, right? And I'm like, this is it. This is the scale in which they're outclassed in the air, right? And I want to see more of it. It's not enough, definitely.
And they talked about how the Covenant always has the best tech, and whenever it's like tech versus tech, they're massively outgunned.
But this was a good start to just demolishing ships.
It was super cool to see the Corvette come in, and then even Chief's heads-up display has it listed as a Corvette with the drop pods, and then a Phantom, and then a Spirit. Like, you guys have no fucking chance. Just leave. Like, I know that they were trying to, but unreal, man. It was super cool to see them completely outmatched, and then to just see, baby Atriox come out and be like, "Man, it's ours now. Thanks."
Oh yeah,
we didn't say anything.
We didn't focus that much on him since we're writing the epilogue to the show now. That is one thing we didn't call out, though. They did a really good job with the grunts, the jackals, and the brute. All really, I thought, fit.
I feel like it's a nitpicky thing, but I was anticipating most of the Covenant designs to be based more off of like 4 and 5 era 343 designs. And so I was a giddy little like Bungie era fanboy in a lot of ways when the grunts looked like Bungie's grunts and the jackals looked, or even just calling them like Infinite style, but they had like the smaller build on their body, like their arms were smaller, all of that fun stuff. They really were like more Bungie era accurate.
Yeah, and it was calling back to what Ursula was saying. Seeing that scene where the carrier gets destroyed by the super carrier. It's like you see, it's directly reminiscent to that scene in Reach. You know, when you see right after they get the fire taken down, and then that carrier immediately gets taken down by glass blast.
So, you're not going anywhere.
Gigantic beam.
Yeah. So it was just really cool to see that. You know, again,
100%.
another great fan service that's subtle for people who but it's not like, hey guys, remember this moment from 2 movies back?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the framing when the Banshee came in and crashed behind keys, and that's when you see it, like that type of framing and stuff. I always really like when it's a natural movement to bring the camera to this thing that's happening in the background that then takes the focus instead of just quick cuts and nonstop stuff.
Yep.
I watch a lot of like stunt videos or things like that these days on YouTube, and one thing they keep mentioning is that even an action scene tells a story, right? Action scenes have characters, they have cameras, they have yeah. I should have just said that. Stuntman react, CGI react. Anyways, action scenes, CGI scenes, they all tell stories, right? So even in this one, you had subtle stories told. Not even that subtle. For example, they lost in the air, but hey, guess who wins on the ground, right? The Spartan wins on the ground, and he decimates them for the most part. Come and get up and leave. Like small things like that. The average viewer might not catch it, but as a fan of the lore, fan of the games, it's like, this is it, right? This is what I wanted.
Yep.
Oh, really good call outs. Yeah, we're thinking of all these great things like right after we're done the
TV show good.
All right. We do have a lot to cover, so I guess we should try to move it forward.
Are you going to drop Ursula, or are you going to try and hold on?
I'm going to go AFK in like 5 minutes for about 10 minutes. Then I'll come back.
Okay,
AFK. Okay. That's cool. We're used
I'll
to
ban
that.
you from
It sounded like he had never heard that before.
Yeah,
No, we're used to it. I'm used to AFK.
Googling it.
If you play enough Halo multiplayer, you're used to AFK.
What's this lingo these new kids are
Like, I hope you got your
The newfangled words. I don't understand what you're saying.
What is AFK? Google.
No, everybody plays Halo multiplayer knows gets to see it every day. So let's move on to the update for season 2. We also have a roadmap up to season 3. I have not looked
season 2 is we got the amount of time that season 2 is going for, which is what everyone's going to be talking about
for the next week and a half for sure, easily.
Yeah,
year.
Or for the next 6 months.
Yeah, for the rest of the year.
Yeah, season two is going to start May 3rd, like they told us it will, and it's going to run until November 7th. The reason for this that they've cited are things like the team needing a little bit more time to work on things, but the time is coming as a side effect of them having what they're calling their priority 0, right? Which is that the team needs a proper work-life balance. We don't want 343 crunching on this game any more than the employees that work on this game or want to crunch on it. Preach. We want them to have a healthy, sustainable balance between, providing us amazing content and all of that cool stuff. I think, without having my own feed in the studio at all times or anything like that or ever, this feels like it is a bit of a side effect of many people that worked on Halo Infinite's core game, both the campaign and the multiplayer, were contractors. And Microsoft is absolutely going on a hiring spree right now for 343, for Halo. I guarantee you that part of this deal with Certain Affinity means that CA is hiring more people to work on Halo Infinite content. So season 2 is going to run a little long, and they did specifically call out that it is an extended season. So they are acknowledging like, hey, 6 months isn't what we want seasons to be. But to make up for it, they are giving us a good amount of content.
And one thing we didn't know about before, which is the September target of the Forge open beta. So you got roughly 4 months of like all this. Then in August, campaign co-op online is targeted. So, yeah, it's not great, but there's some balance to it. I get being upset. It's long. It's nice to know. Yes, that's the best thing. Like having this now, we know what their targets are, calling them targets, not calling them flat dates. Like,
Well,
yeah,
and that was cool too for Joe Staten when he tweeted it out to say, and it's in the blog post, this is absolutely a living document just as much as the game is a living game. This is totally, all of it is subject to change. They do specifically, like Jesse was saying, like call things targets. The Forge open beta in September, which is cool. Hey, Forge in season 2, we made it happen, guys. Campaign co-op, like Jesse said, and then also campaign mission replay. That honestly has me more excited than almost anything else on here.
Mhm.
I think the narrative events sound interesting. I'm interested to see exactly what that is. I'm going to open that up to what you guys think about it also, but to me it screams Spartan Up style, like campaign mini missions on maybe even BTB maps.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I say you and I, Pfhorbear, are super excited about PvE content, and so when I saw that was those, my eyes lit up, because they clearly set the stage of that's something that they want to do with your multiplayer Spartan, right? There was always this idea that that's going to be your character to take forward into whatever form that takes into the PvE multiplayer aspect. We've seen they built trailers for the multiplayer Spartans. Now we're actually getting the promise of narrative events.
Right.
What form that takes, that's what's really interesting to me. Are they going to be smaller bite-sized events? Are they going to be more like, because Spartan Ops, for the complaints that they may have had at the time, whether you're talking about the fact that so many of them were copy paste, all that kind of jazz, they were rather large in terms of the what you were actually doing. You weren't just fighting in a singular arena like you were with Firefight. So I'm hoping that they do something more along those lines. But
I always felt like Spartan Ops was a huge missed opportunity, and obviously looking back on it now is way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Like Spartan Ops was a very, very much so like a live service game kind of model for doing storytelling. Great advancements in the world of Halo. Unfortunately, not stuff that 343 ended up sticking with due to like fan reception, but a cool way to advance the story past the campaign. And then being able to use things like multiplayer maps as, like every other or every third iteration of Spartan Ops was multiplayer maps, which totally worked because they would also reuse campaign assets in new missions and new levels and provide like all of this cool new content. The biggest disappointment about this is a lot of the same disappointment that I feel about like Destiny seasonal content, which is these are timed narrative events. That screams to me that this stuff will be around for the 2 weeks that it's offered and then goes away.
Yeah. So Pfhorbear, I did want to call something out before we kind of get into like all the details, because I think you brought up a good point. I mean, it's the elephant in the room, right? Or the brute in the room, whatever. The fact that it's Halo. The fact that it is 6 months. I was actually taking a shower when they announced that I came here, and all of a sudden, I'm checking the Discord and I'm seeing like, people are ready to close down 343 again.
Yeah, this dropped like 20 minutes before we went live.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Twitter and stuff like that. I do want to say something because and it's just one call out and then we'll move on. And we've already talked about the COVID stuff and with the development stuff and all that, but it's more just even going a step beyond that, just a little bit of perspective on it. I feel a lot of times if you go, hey guys, it's going to be fine, you kind of sound like a I don't know, a shill or fanboy or whatever it is, and that maybe a part of that is there, but even as somebody who's a Halo fanboy or somebody that's really likes Halo probably as much as anything. I mean, I look at the roadmap and I see a lot of promise, and I see that they're hiring a lot of people. I see they announced Certain Affinity is making a big mode. We know the support's going to be there, so it's like, yeah, it's slower, right? And it's slower because of, well, we don't know the specifics, but obviously, I'm sure getting what they got out at the end of last year probably took a lot of what they had, and they're also don't know how to do live servers yet. They're learning, right? And it's just it is what it is, and I get people not being happy with the cadence, but at the same time, I think it's okay to still be optimistic. And so like I just want to say that before we kind of move forward, because I still look at this and I'm looking at the stuff that's coming, and I'm still like really excited.
Pretty jazzed about what's there.
Yeah,
There's a
I'm
lot of
looking forward to
modes
Halo.
too, which aren't listed here. Like, there's a lot of modes
Yeah.
coming during season
Yeah.
2. They listed like freaking 10 or something.
There's
a lot.
I think it was like 10 or 12 different modes that they listed, and gave us that and more kind of statement at the end of that. Like, there's so much coming.
And I don't think there's anything shillish, if that's a word, for being objective, right? Like, yeah, of course, we all wish there was more content.
We want more maps, right? At the
We
end
all,
of the day, yeah.
exactly. Like,
Yeah,
we all wish like certain things were different, but like you said, there's COVID. There's also the fact that Microsoft in general is starting to deepen the relationship in whatever way that means with Double 11 with certain.
They pinky promised like this.
Yeah. with so with 76 with the initiatives, Perfect Dark, like they're doing this across the board, so it's clear that they're starting to understand, because of the size of and scope of games and all that kind of jazz, that they need more help that
they do.
Temporary contractors don't always fulfill. But beyond that, we always talk about the foundation of Halo Infinite being very good, right?
Yep.
Look at all the games that did not have a great foundation that came back later, and Rainbow Six Siege, that is one of the most played PvP games out there, and it had a horrible first year, actually horrible first 18 months. Fallout 76, which I absolutely adore, horrible first 2 years. Well, first 18 months again. So like the fact that this one has a strong foundation and we're going to be building in addition to that, I think that's for me at least why I'm still so optimistic, and why I still don't share that same toxic negativity. And that you guys have heard my spiel about COVID and how much that's affected everybody as well, 1,000 times.
Well,
So
and you bring up good points. Like there was learning stuff there too, right? They needed more people. Right. They need more permanent people or long-term people. Yep. So like at the end of the day, but despite all that, there's a lot to be excited about, and I just kind of want to move forward with that, but also just kind of acknowledge, like I said, the brute in the room. By the way, I got an eyelash. I'm not crying. I don't know what that
season 2 should have been shorter.
Leave him alone. No. So yeah, Pfhorbear, you did a really good job with the drop pod. I got a chance to listen to it right before.
Thank you.
A couple hours ago, and I thought you and Sol did a really good job kind of highlighting some of the things that are coming in season 2. So why don't we go ahead and start there, because there is some really cool things. You go ahead and take over and sit back.
as I kind of roll into this, I do want to just to add on to what Daniel was saying. As someone who like is like genuinely an apologist for Bungie and Destiny, I think that if Destiny can have the year one that Destiny 1 had, and then Bungie like come out and produce the content that they wanted to produce with that game, and like fully turn that game around, not once but twice with its sequel, I think that Halo Infinite, with the amazing foundation that it has in this 10-year promise, I think it definitely has the potential to do what almost any live service game that manages to succeed does, which is think they have it all figured out because of everyone else that messed it up first. Release, they don't have it figured out, and that's okay, because this thing is something that takes time. And then just like there's so much there. There's so much feedback that needs to be implemented. There's so much time that has to be dedicated to addressing feedback and implementing features, and having like bringing new people in that think of things differently than the people that they've had. Support studios. I mean, it's like Microsoft looked at the Activision situation during the acquisition stage and was like, "Oh, support studios? Oh, hell yeah, let's do that." And like Daniel said, we're starting to see a whole bunch of that. I think Halo Infinite may be a year from now, right? But will absolutely balloon up again, just like any other live service game has.
Yep.
Now, season 2, some pretty cool shit in there, guys. Really and truly, Sol and I, if you haven't checked it out already, Sol and I did a short 15-minute kind of conversation as to some of the stuff that we're going to start seeing in season 2 as far as modes go. We are going to kind of open that up a little bit and talk about it. Season 2 is bringing a bunch of fan favorite stuff back with some new twists in it, specifically King of the Hill. King of the Hill is going to work. Huh?
Nothing. Keep going.
Okay. King of the Hill is going to work a little bit differently. Instead of a hill that teleports frustratingly whenever the hell it decides to, It did have like predictable timers and blah blah blah. Now the hill will stay stationary until a control meter is filled. So instead of you earning points for every second that you're in the hill, you are making progress towards capping a hill for a point. Once the team hits the point total to win the match, then they win the match. That's awesome. They're even setting it up in ways that are predictable for things like ranked, where every hill will be completely predictable on each of the maps. They will consistently spawn in consistent locations every game. And then quick play, the first hill on that map will always spawn in the same equidistance place. And then every hill after that's going to be random. It's going to add that kind of chaotic fun that King of the Hill is known for, and take out some of the frustrations of having a completely tied game, 2 points away from winning. You step in the hill, you get a point, and then it goes away. So super dope as far as that stuff goes. Is there anyone here on the panel that has any strong feelings about changes to King of the Hill?
No, the two things I'm most excited about, I'm waiting for you to get to. But
Yeah, same.
I know I do have friends, friends of my friends list have been waiting for King of the Hill, but yeah, I think there's, as we kind of move through this content, there's some things that are bigger than I was expecting when they announced this a few weeks ago. But I'll let you keep going forward.
Yeah, I'll speed through. I should have sped through King of the Hill. It's not all that exciting, but land grab is a really cool new version of King of the Hill with 3 capture zones. I told Sol yesterday on Drop Pod that I think that Halo's about to have a better version of control in Destiny than Destiny has with land grab, where there's 3 control points. When one gets captured, it deletes itself off the map. You get a point. Once all 3 have been captured, then 3 new ones spawn. I think that's a super cool idea for a game mode.
Right. It sounds simple, but it allows, because we have all played. When you're right now when you're capturing zones, it's like the other team gets a lead, and it's like, okay, it's kind of hopeless now, right? Like this does give. It
was my problem with strongholds, where like once a team kind of had control over 2, it virtually felt impossible unless you had like a full team with you to catch back up.
Yep.
Yeah, and this does allow, I think, let you reset strategies, find a different way, just it keeps allowing you wiping that slate clean and coming back in there gives you another chance. It's like a rematch, right? And so that's going to be fun to see how that kind of plays out.
Well, and like the way the final points work in this mode also, like if one team is 1 point away from winning, then they'll spawn 2 zones, right? And that gives the enemy team a chance to usurp their lead and totally take over control of the game. A really cool thing in Halo is always the combat is more so built so that if you're the better player and someone gets the drop on you, you can win that fight. And this totally supports that style of play. If both teams are only a point away from winning, then they only spawn 1 zone, and it's chaotic hell to try to capture it. What a cool idea! Like a game mode that reacts to what players are doing? Blah, blows my mind. And then just to jump right over it real quick, because I know that it's the one thing everyone wants to talk about. We're also getting some cool modes that they promised and playlists that they promised. Rumble Pit, which is just 8-player free for all with some rotating modes in there. Some sack style modes like Vampire Ball, which is definitely the weirdest out of the group.
That's awesome.
With an oddball that is a one-hit kill that bleeds shields from players and gives you more health, and even will turn into an overshield if you're already at full shields. That's super dope. Rocket repulsors, which is just rocket launchers and repulsors. Hell yeah, that sounds amazing. And then of course Ninja Slayer, which we've all been wanting in an official capacity. Just energy swords and unlimited grapple shot. Have a ball. That sounds insane. I can't wait for that.
So let's stop. Oh, go ahead.
Did you see anything about teleporting shotguns or anything? Because I didn't.
So they took none of your feedback, thank God. So 343 is winning just for that. But I think that's a good place to stop real quick, because this is one of the things that I think is a little bit underrated with the potential, even amongst Halo fans, because going back, I mean, obviously Halo's had equipment before, but I feel like what they have, like the sandbox right now, I had to use the word at least once this show. The sandbox right now, it is got more potential than it's ever had, more variables, right? And I think when you start getting into these crazy modes, like that's something I was thinking of, like even for a custom game, just throwing together rockets and repulsors. I have yet to send one back to somebody, so just having that opportunity
get good,
to
Abe.
play around with it. Yeah, I need to get good with that, but that's a chance to get good with that stuff, and just Spider-Manning around the arena and trying to hit me with the sword, like that stuff, like that is unique, and that is just unique to only to Halo. I don't really think anybody else can replicate that, including the previous Halo games. And I think right now it's one of those things that's kind of flying under the radar. But I feel like you get a party together, heck, even just doing custom games with some of the stuff is going to be make some fun nights with friends. So
100%.
Yeah, I actually sent my first rocket back yesterday.
Nice.
And
Hey,
I always
congratulations.
I always forget that I have the repulsor. Like,
Right.
When I have a grapple shot, for some reason the icon is just so super easy for me to see, and I just never remember it. And I was like, holy shit, I have it. And I was playing Fiesta, and I was like, oh, I'm going to use it for once. And boom, it worked.
Return to center.
Yeah.
My biggest problem with the repulsor is I can't help but think of it as primarily a super jump tool.
Exactly.
Like it's all I use it for. Is
I
just
use
like
it to push people off the level. Like almost every time I have it, that's for some reason that's what I associate it with. So.
But like I've been playing people the last couple of weeks that are super smart with like even grenade bounce backs with the repulsor.
Mm-hmm.
It is incredibly satisfying and frustrating at the same time to like beeline somebody with a plasma grenade and just before it touches them, then to send it right back at me. Like, go fuck yourself, brother. Like that's cool.
Well, and that's like the repulsor is probably one of the most underrated things in this. That you're right. Like when people really know how to use it. It's probably the most versatile equipment that's ever been in the Halo, right? Like you between the jumps and sending back grenades and all the sending back bodies over the edge and everything else. And like to your point though, using it with the jump with the rockets, that wouldn't be bad either. Getting way up in the air and throwing a rocket down on them. You definitely have the high ground.
But yeah, on top of like to wrap this up before we get to like the cool big thing is like I said earlier, they are going to be bringing in more social hoppers on a rotation, much like the MCC has every week. They kind of filter out like a new mode, be it Escalation Slayer or whatever. That's a foreshadow. But like social skirmish, some more social slayer modes, team snipers, team doubles, which everyone has been begging for since the game released.
Right.
Just kind of this promise. I know I've been complaining about it for a few weeks at this point, but just more casual modes to kind of engage people who don't want to hop into, even sometimes like quick play can get super sweaty. Just something to like play and relax and have fun in, similarly to maybe hopefully eventually a cool PvE horde mode. But my dudes, what would you do if I told you there was a something that I saw on Twitter yesterday, which I did mention in the drop pod. So I'm sorry to repeat myself, but somebody called this a baby royale. Love that so much. Last Spartan Standing is a brand new game mode that they are bringing to Halo Infinite. Very much so borrows from Attrition last season, which was an elimination-based game mode. Instead of it being team-based, however, it is 12 players in a free-for-all match on BTB maps. Each player has a 5 live allotment, and every time you score points by getting kills or assists or just generally playing the game, you build up to kind of like the Halo 4 ordnance meter, where you're given the opportunity to level up and change your loadout. This sounds incredibly interesting. My favorite part about the loadout thing so far is that it is an option. You don't have to level up when you hit that, unlike Escalation Slayer and the MCC, but this is the first thing that's coming to Halo Infinite that has Battle Royale implications. And I kind of want to open it up definitely to everybody here and kind of gauge how they're feeling about Last Spartan Standing, like whether you're interested in it or if you think this is dumb. Kind of gauge what you guys think about it as well.
Who wants to start?
Daniel, let's start with you, dude.
So yeah, I mean, It's funny. You and I have also, and I mean, Ursula never heard the word hopper before. Recently,
I said it
It's
recently
been
to,
months.
to my
Okay.
youngest brother, and he was like, "What do you mean hopper?" And I was like, "Ah."
and so we've long said that one of the best ways to ensure long-term growth and sustainability is to ensure that we've got a bevy of hoppers. And I totally understood why they didn't at launch. Is about load balancing and all that kind of jazz. But it's nice to see that they're doing more of that, especially with experimentation, because I feel like this mode, baby royale is kind of, I guess, the perfect way to describe it, because it is that first step to really kind of gauge um, how people kind of take this mode in the Halo universe. And I do like, I've always liked MCC, pretty much love. I feel like that's one of the most perfect packages of any games out there. But Escalation Slayer was always fun, but such a pain in the ass, because you would be, in the middle of like 3 kills and you're about to kill some dude for that with that third shot, and your gun swaps automatically and you're dead, right? So
Yeah.
so having that kind of control over your own progression, it sounds like a perfect blend of that little battle royale ness with some Escalation Slayer. And I think depending on how, like, I don't know if they're doing custom versions of the maps that they're going to be that are already out there and coming in with season 2 or what, but there's definitely some really cool things that they should be able to do with it. I think going forward, it'll be interesting to see how they do a full scale battle royale, because like you said, and like everybody's, whether we like it or not, I think that's the inevitability, right? Is that we're going to get some form of
Totally.
full battle
Yeah.
royale. And I think, instead of being resistant to it like I have been for 2 years, I think at this point, kind of like I was saying with that point about having more social hoppers, having more fluidity, and giving players more options. Just like Forge players are going to come in and they're going to do their Forge stuff. You've got your Halo fans, like all of us here, but then by bringing in a full battle royale, or even something like this to start out and see what that response is, you start to bring in new players. So I think it's smart. I still kind of like, with the narrative events and this, I still hope that they start finding a way to make some of these quote unquote seasonal events permanent in some level, whether it means that you just don't get those unlocks that you may get, right?
Mm.
But I think that's one of the things that people still have, some apprehension around. I mean, I know I do with some of the stuff with Tenrai. Like, I forced myself to play that a lot, just because when it came out, or when it was first announced, there was only going to be 3 events, and then they spread it out, obviously.
Yeah.
But and I understand the mechanics and the psychology around it, but at the same time, like, if you're going to spend the time to build specific modes and specific map configurations around that, it makes sense to have it available, all throughout.
So
So
they did mention,
Yeah, go ahead.
that
Go ahead.
like, for example, in this blog post themselves, they said people liked attrition, so we're bringing it in as a permanent mode.
mhm,
From day one, it's being added to quick play, I believe.
Mhm.
right. Well, yeah, but
And then all of the modes that are associated with events. I know, Daniel, I think that you're being more specific about like the unlocks that you can achieve with the the season itself. It'd be nice if, or sorry, the event itself would just stick around for the season,
yeah, and the
rather
narrative
than,
events and the fact that they
yeah,
talk
like
about
it was super frustrating that like I fell off of the game super hard, like very end of January, and didn't play for months. I
Mhm,
recently came back and was super disappointed when I realized, oh, I just missed the Tactical Slayer event. So I can't get Mark 5 Zeta. I can't get
yeah,
the Scorpion Punch coding. Like
right,
that's super lame for a season that's 6 months long. I know that it wasn't, initially set up to be 6 months long. The same reason we got 6 weeks of Tenrai,
right,
but there's no reason why, especially on seasons that are extended like this, you can't essentially run an event every other week.
yep,
It feels like a missed opportunity. If the psychology behind limited events is player engagement, what better way to keep players engaged than to roll out more and more events between big content releases?
yep.
Now,
Yeah.
Jesse, what about you? Was there anything? Or sorry, Daniel, unless you had something else.
No, Jesse's been quiet. Let's get him.
Jesse, how are you feeling about Last Spartan Standing, man?
I'll probably never play it.
Sweet.
And it's not. I don't want to. It's There's too many fucking games coming out, man.
Yeah, totally, dude.
I'm finishing up Rogue Legacy 2. I've got Loot River waiting. I'm in the middle of friggin' Ayuden Chronicles. There's like 4 more next month, so it's like I'm excited, but I'm fine with them spreading things out.
Totally.
Because Jesus Christ, if you go over what's coming on Game Pass, just next month in a little bit of June, and you just try and keep up with this shit, I can't do it. I cannot keep up with everything.
100%. Man,
so people are losing their minds that they're not cramming it all into 3 months, and I'm like, you know what? If you're on the actual ecosystem and you like playing a bunch of games, holy Christ, is it impossible to keep up with everything the way it is right now? So I'm fine if they need to take a little more time to, and they've said it repeatedly, and I hope it is the truth, and I'll take them at their word until Jason Schreier Jr. gives us a scoop in 10 years that it's not. That they're doing this priority 0. This is how we can do this healthily, because every other live service game is not healthy. They're all crunch factories for the most part.
Well,
and you get terrible stories about them.
Yeah, I mean, people are leaving places like Riot. There's 20 departures just this week. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you.
Yeah, so I'm with it. I'm like into the modes. They look really fun, and I will try to play them, especially if we can maybe get a community night or 2 together.
Yeah.
Definitely be
well,
time
and
to bring that
that's
back.
definitely the goal with some community stuff going on with all of the new content coming to the game. Jesse, I know that maybe Last Spartan Standing isn't your cup of tea, but since Daniel and I at least have talked about it a lot, do you think that you'll dip in to check out the narrative stuff for?
Oh yeah, no, I'll definitely play it. And I'll probably stream it and stuff. I'm very interested. The big thing for me, of course, will end up being co-op campaign in August.
Totally.
Hopefully that's kind of a dead time. Normally is release-wise.
Yeah.
This year, you never freaking know. It could be Redfall time. I know what I'm not going to give a shit about, and that's Season 3 starting 5 days before Starfield hits. Well, you know what? At that point, I might be done with Starfield. Yeah. Take that, everyone else.
Good luck.
So, yeah, I'm happy with this timing, because there is, and I think a lot of people are just ignoring or don't care, that there is so much planned for Season 2. So that if they do stretch it out and they wait, and in 4 months, the big thing, or in 3 months, the big thing is you get campaign co-op and you get some other stuff. And then in September is the Forge open beta starting. And and that runs straight through. Like there's good pacing in this unfortunately stretched out thing. So I get being annoyed that it's twice as long again. But I think this time there's way more to it than there was in Season 1. So it should turn out better.
Yeah, I agree, man. Yeah, I feel like kind of like mid-July really is going to be when Halo Infinite's live service kicks off in an interesting way. That'll be around the time that we get the second narrative event for Season 2, and then basically from there we get campaign co-op, replay missions, Forge beta, and then as that stuff starts to wind down, we roll into Season 3. So I'm sorry I cut you off there, man. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, when I first read through the Season 2 blog, right, they mentioned all these social modes, just Slayer Vampire Ball, but they also mentioned more. And now it kind of makes sense to me why there's even more than team doubles and this and that, because the season's elongated. Assuming they can keep releasing modes like these, social modes, the player base is still going to drop 5 months from now, but it shouldn't be nearly as bad as it was for the first season, I think.
Well, we'll see. A lot of that's going to depend on Forge too. I think that's still that is still the X factor in a lot of this. But
Abe, I was going to come over to you now and see how you're feeling about everything.
Yeah, I mean, so I've never been a BR guy. I think I mentioned this in previous shows, but I've given them all like a few minutes, and literally, I think
not 2,000 hours, but 2,000 seconds.
No, yeah, 2,000 seconds. Like I think I did kill somebody with a frying pan in PUBG once. That was my claim to fame in all the battle royals combined. But here's the thing about this. This is actually to more directly answer your question. I think this could be a major contributor to my 2,000 hours in Halo Infinite, eventually eclipsing maybe even what I had in Halo 5.
2001 hours. Thank you, gentlemen.
And I'll tell you the thing that's interesting about this. Number one, we've seen a lot of the pushback with Battle Royale, and for good reason. It usually doesn't seem like. I think a lot of times people think of the pacing not fitting. This does have a Halo pacing, and I think it's warming them up to the Battle Royale while doing that. So the fact that they're encouraging you to go out there and get kills is. It's not a hide and seek game, really, right? And I think that is a huge differentiator in this. And you still will end up with this. And the one thing that we haven't had in a Halo game is that you get down to the final moments, the circle closes in, it's you and somebody else, mano a mano with whatever you got, right? And I think that could lead to some really interesting moments, especially from a streaming standpoint, because even though it doesn't have the ebb and flows that I think streamers want with a typical BR, and I think that's why they want that, so they can have the downtime and go hide in the grass and talk to the people watching while they're doing that stuff. But and here you're not going to get that, but you are, I think, going to get those dynamic moments in the in some of the diversity that you would expect in a battle royale towards the end. But you were going to say something there. I was sorry. Dave.
Yeah, no, it's I definitely think that I know we've been going for a little while here, approaching 2 hours, but I think it's worth talking about how this could essentially be a feature list that are like things that we're looking to maybe embed into certain affinities supposed battle royale mode, right? Like the 5 lives thing, I think is a very interesting take on battle royale, if that's what we can call this. I think again that Halo does lend itself well, and I'm not particularly fond of BRs. Like I hope that that's not being misconstrued, but the idea in a battle royale that you could be a top 10 player in the world in like Call of Duty Warzone, and someone who's never played the game before just happens to see you before you see them, and they can win a BR match. Like that's a feature of a game like that. Whereas, like I said earlier, in Halo, the better player wins, basically regardless when it comes to whether or not you got the drop on somebody. Like none of that really matters outside of like power weapons and things like that, of course. But like if it comes just down to like 2 dudes and they're both wielding BRs or commandos or whatever, like the better player is going to win that fight. And I think that makes for a very interesting, like even like you said, a like stream game potential. Like I am the #1 Halo Battle Royale player because I'm just fucking good at the game. Right. I think that has a ton of potential, way more potential than even something like Fortnite or Warzone has. But I'd love to hit Soul real quick. I know you and I talked about this a good bit yesterday. How are you feeling about Last Spartan Standing?
Yeah, so after a few more hours and hearing you guys, I didn't even consider the streaming aspect, which makes a lot of sense because I mentioned it last time.
Blows my mind. You're a Gen Z.
Yeah, I'm millennial, but I'm not a Gen Z. All right, I'll take this one. But
not that there's anything wrong with Gen Z. Come on.
No, of course.
That's consumers.
That's so defensive.
What was I gonna say? The fact that there's lives means you're 100% correct, Pfhorbear, where you can legitimately claim like, hey, I'm one of the top players of this game mode, and a lucky shot from a mile away isn't going to lead to me having a gamer rage moment because, hey, it's cool. I'm so good. I haven't died yet. I'm back taking this person out. Things like that. It leads to a lot of like emerging gameplay. It leads to it being, I used this phrase on the podcast, not the podcast, the drop pod yesterday, where basically it's like 343's mantra of balanced wherever they can. Right? Which a lot of people don't like. And I've had conversations with people who are upfront about like, it shouldn't be balanced. And I disagree completely. It's a multiplayer game. I want it to be as balanced as it can be. Right? I know that leads to being more sweaty, but
it's want to play Destiny.
Yeah. Daniel, you and I need to talk about Destiny PvP one of these days. Because here's the thing, brother. I agree with you. 100%. But
I don't know of any Destiny 2 player that wouldn't agree.
And I have over 2,000 hours in Destiny.
It still feels good to play though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course it does.
But yeah, so long story short, basically it's if this is the angle CA is going to take in their BR, I'm pretty excited for it to play a game mode that I have also never really played.
And this is a testing ground too, right? Like I think that a lot of this stuff is
we
can look at it. Yeah, we can look at it as like a sandbox for their bigger thing.
For the sandbox.
It was gonna come up later anyway.
It's a Matrix. Yeah, I mean, like just, but and you guys, I think just kind of hit it all. But the gist of it is that it still feels like a Halo mode. But by the way, I mean, it is interesting how much the community is resistant to change when you think about it. Like we just went through all these modes and nothing is like the others between
Right.
rocket repulsors and ninja modes.
Well, that's the
We're all
cool
just
thing
do
about
it.
Halo.
It's
Like
just
it
do
can literally
whatever.
be whatever you want it to be.
We're all just
And
Change.
even with like this is gonna probably eventually get a little confusing on our end, but like the drop pods that they're going to be dropping every month with the monthly quality of life stuff, and they list off like, to us, quality of life means not only improving bugs but also implementing requested features and playlists and this and that. We're going to be getting, like, their target, of course, is one a month. That's awesome, especially once Forge becomes a thing. Like, could you imagine a monthly thing, even when seasons are 3 months, a monthly like playlist refresh where like, hey, there's 10 new maps in this playlist. Like, here's a playlist that's only Forge maps. Go test them out. Tell us what you think. Maybe we'll keep them. Maybe we'll trash them.
Good transition, by the way. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, like with stuff coming later this season. Now that we're a week and a half away from season 2, which feels crazy to say, given when it launched, it was basically 6 months out. It's weird that it's been 6 months, but the Forge open beta is coming in late September per the roadmap, which again is subject to change. But the coolest thing about this Forge open beta is that instead of doing flights like they said that they wanted to do originally, they feel confident with just rolling it out, full stop, open beta. Here's the deal. We'll update this with our drop pods every month if it needs to be updated, and this will just roll on through and be full Forge. We are not going to take this away from you. That's amazing. That means we could be getting Forge maps in rotation in the live game as early as October. That's mind-blowing to think before Forge is like officially out that we'd be seeing cool Forge creations, that John's gonna go build another fucking Sea of Thieves clone in Halo, all of that fun stuff.
And that is the X factor, right? And that's again, we don't know exactly what Forge is going to be like in its beta phase. I think that's kind of a catch-all. It's kind of
they did call out that they were hoping to put out the core features and then implement as they can and as time goes on.
Right.
But like you said, we just don't know exactly what those core features are. Does that include the scripting? Does that include the programming?
Because that could give them an out. But even just again, we've not had a Halo Forge, just a basic Halo Forge with all the stuff that's in this sandbox, all the equipment and things like that. So, I don't have any other. Give me a thesaurus next time. Sorry, I didn't realize I was going to say that.
No. It was funny that you whispered it, like you were trying to say a bad word in front of your mom. Like, she's being such an ass. But yeah, I'd love, like, I'm curious. I hate to do like the let me toss it to the next guy now, but I'd love to know, kind of, whoever wants to talk about it, what they hope to see out of like early Forge. I know obviously it'll come with season 3. They gave us a very brief little preview as to what to expect from season 3. There's a shitload of stuff there, but what are you hoping that we can see out of Forge before it's officially released? Anyone?
I'll keep talking. If you want me to. I mean,
a basic Warzone firefight or basic firefight mode. Give me firefight.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, the scripting, right? I think that's what you would need for that.
Well, and let's hope that is part of its core feature set.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to see John make another pirate ship.
Yeah. I think John wants to see John make another pirate ship.
I think he already made pirate ship.
I want to see something that's pretty close to release build in terms of their tools and memory budget, because we always, at least I do, I always forget that this still has to support Xbox One, so how much of that is still going to be limited to the constraints of that hardware. I hope we get as close to final in terms of that aspect during the beta. Like if the scripting's not there, sure, that's fine. But as long as we know generally what that memory budget's going to be, what tools are going to be implemented, like shader modifications, all that kind of jazz. As long as that's there, I think I'm gonna come away happy. I'm not the biggest Forge person anymore, but I used to spend a lot of time back in the Halo Reach, Halo 4 days. So
Absolutely.
So yeah.
There's a lot of community night potential in this. Like,
Oh, yeah.
just if anybody's done that, I mean, right now it's really limited with custom games, but I'm imagining somebody building some cloud city with unlimited grapples, and you're just like all Spider-Manning and stuff like that. Like there's just a lot of crazy potential that we're talking about the action sack stuff. It just you start mixing that in there with a lot of different maps, and that is really the thing that is probably the most difficult thing or the biggest complaint, I think, for people with the content. I mean, there's a lot of modes coming out here soon, right? It's really more about the maps right now, and I think just filling in some of those gaps is going to be huge as long as you can do it, right? So as long as they can make it where you can throw some maps in a playlist or make it so that people can find you, and I don't know what the limitations there are. So that's the reason why I can't speak like super glowingly yet about that potential coming to fruition. But if we all can, if there's custom browsers, if they're by that time, which I don't know if they touched on that. If there's if we can implement this fully in custom modes, if they do put a playlist of things out there right off the bat, off the beta, this could have a significant impact. But again, there's a lot of ifs, as part of the equation right now.
Well, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see something that CA is working on be something like a custom games browser.
Yeah.
I fully anticipate something that would make me happy. Not that this is purely hypothetical. Would be that Certain Affinity works on the multiplayer portion of the game moving forward. New modes, new maps, whatever. CA has proven themselves time and time again. I totally trust them to do whatever they want to do.
Maybe.
And then 343 and then 343 just works on like campaign, DLC, story expansion, like that kind of stuff. I think
that wouldn't really work though, because 343 has an entire team dedicated towards multiplayer.
No, of course. Like that's what I'm saying is like in my dream scenario. That's what we
acquire CA, have them work directly with 343 for the rest of their existence.
Jokingly acquire CA, but really not, because they've been integral to Halo for how many freaking years now?
I mean, since Halo 2, like
yeah, exactly. So like acquire them, but I think kind of like expanding, but being a little bit more specific onto your point, Pfhorbear, is that you get them to do the BR style, just like how we have High Moon or Raven, I'm sorry, working on Warzone for Call of Duty. Keep 343 still on the multiplayer side, but take some of that weight off of 343's shoulders for the BR mode, or whatever. Was it Tatanka? Was the Tatanko, I think, was the code name for it. Whatever it actually turns out to be, like, let them handle that exclusively, and take off, and then help. I'm sure they'll help build challenges and content around that too. But I think that would immensely help take off some of the weight from 343's shoulders once they get their cadence down.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a studio that's growing a lot too, so we'll have to see what happens there. One thing that I didn't mention with the ifs, when it comes down to when this comes out in September, the Forge. I mean, there's also the possibility they just drop a bunch of, they could drop maps right then too.
I'd be very surprised if Forge releases even the open beta version of Forge releases, and there aren't at least a couple of developer created maps. I think that those serve a really great purpose, especially in Halo 5, and I think a lot of people that were interested in Forge maybe
the leak community has found, I think it's 10 different biomes you can do in Forge.
Yes, several of them are reused Halo 5 maps. So we'll see ultimately like what that number looks like. But yeah, definitely it'd be dope if we got Halo 5's canvases back too.
Data mined standard maps as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I could have sworn we've seen that several weeks ago.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of maps in the works that are in various levels of being finished and being untextured and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't even think of that in the sense where Forge is releasing late August, right? In open beta, or no, September.
September, they said.
September.
Yeah.
So September is basically a month after when we all thought season 2 would release. Season 3 feels its own 3-month time frame. If Forge releases with numerous Forge maps and whatnot, that's in its sense almost like it's not a whole season, but it is a pretty big content injection.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like they might be relying on that to keep the ball rolling for the season.
Well, that's what I was saying in the friggin' XboxEra Discord, that it's still a very long season, but it's way better timed. Like there's more to drop during it, because 3 months in, so we get a big hit at the beginning, we've got events going on, and then 3 months in we get co-op and replaying missions and stuff, and then a month later we get Forge and whatever that ends up being. So like, and there's all these different modes. Like there's like been like 10 of them or so, and they've talked about a bunch. Like they have a lot more coming. It's still too long, but it's not going to be anywhere near as barren as season 1 is.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was one of the biggest issues. I mean, one of the reasons people were frustrated was just it wasn't just that it was 6 months; it's that we didn't
Get anything new in the process.
There wasn't much to the 6 months. It was just like 6 months, and you're just going to wait. So yeah. I think there's actually live service to the. There's actually service to the live service this season. So
makes you wonder if the primary reason, and I still do think it might be a little naive, but I still do think the primary reason behind the 6 months is priority 0. Makes you wonder just how badly overworked are some of these other BRs? You know what I mean?
We kind of touched on. I can't remember if you were in the conversation at the time, but there have been a lot of mass departures from some of these other studios that tend to get overlooked, but they don't have articles written about them, so you probably won't know.
So should we move on to? We are now past. We're over 2 hours. Should we move on?
Yeah, we got questions. Let's hit up the community.
Yeah. Let's
All right. Go in community questions. You can go on forum.xboxera.com, find the You Had Me at Halo podcast OT, and drop in a question if you got them for us. We normally get to all of them, except for when we forget they exist. Sorry, Mort. So question number 1 from Podrick Payne. You had me at hello, guys. Guys? Did anyone else start to get giddy with excitement the second Cortana said slip space rupture detected? I mean, like younger, less beaten down and jaded version of yourself level of giddy. I had been enjoying the episode, but couldn't help but be thinking, oh man, this show is going to be catching some hell for getting more than halfway through the season and still not having another big action sequence since episode 1. And then I heard Jen Taylor deliver that familiar phrase, and it was on like Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong, Fettuccine Linguine, Martini, Bikini, Slap Chop. He didn't say
yeah,
slap
I think we
chop,
covered
but
that.
So
he was
good.
referencing it. Yeah, it was real good.
Locked it.
Oh, and yes, it was very good. And now let me load up the next
Instant
thing.
goosebumps.
Yes. Question 2 from somebody who's never dropped in a question before. New guy, Mort. Greetings, guys and cats. What a great episode, right? The best one so far, in my opinion, even if it was a bit short and wasted too much of that precious time on Quan the Entitled. Bunch of questions this time. Question 1. When and how do you think we will see Cortana side with Master Chief over Halsey, or do you think she will remain in the somewhat machiny state?
No, I think
So,
she's gonna say.
yeah,
That's
it's actually really cool that he asked this because this is something I feel like we didn't talk enough about when we were
I
talking about
did.
the episode.
I did.
But sorry, I didn't.
Yeah.
Let me say.
You were sleeping
you
with
go
your
then.
eyes open at the time.
I feel like
yeah.
we needed a scene with when Cortana activates the thing, right? There has to be that conflict has to be there.
And she
when
immediately
you do
told
this-
him she did it too. She didn't hide it,
exactly,
which I imagine Halsey wanted her to probably hide it.
The people who want the relationship between Cortana and Chief, as it is in the games, well, the show needs to build up to that,
Yep.
right? And this is step 1 of it building up there. And I do think that by the end of this season, or maybe the middle of the next, we'll reach the point where her as a chip gets removed from his head and gets put into his suit. Is what I think. Basically,
I
saying
think
she
I
loses
think
that
that
ability.
just I think it's going to come down to how Keyes responds, because Chief will inevitably have that conversation with Captain Keyes, and I need you to actually tell me the truth. Like, am I imagining these things? Is Halsey like being an asshole about this? I think we're going to start to see that kind of come to a head in the next episode. If you saw the preview for it, like basically the Halo 4 interrogation scene is going to be in this episode. Very, very interesting stuff there. As far as Chief and Cortana siding with each other more. I think as Cortana learns more about the Spartan program, like I think it was either Daniel or Jesse said earlier, as Cortana learns more about the program itself, I think that she will definitely start to side more with Chief than Halsey.
Yeah, over time, I would be surprised if they did it this year, though. I feel like that'd be too fast. I mean,
maybe at the last episode, but it's got to feel earned. Otherwise, it's just
yeah.
gonna.
The what, sorry?
That's I always have a problem with that. Like when you see like the like I always call it the WWE WWF flip. You know, like when they just try, I'm a good guy now, and you know, or you go from good guy to bad guy or bad guy to good guy like really quickly. It doesn't. That you have to build that up. So I think they're doing okay. They're right now. It looks like they're building that the right way, and it looks like that's the direction they're heading, which is would make sense. I mean, at the end of the day, like Chief and Cortana need to be on the same team. So I think they're going to get there.
All right. And part 2 wants the question. Oh, what?
Just a good question, Mort.
Yeah.
It's all right. All right, part 2. Are we shipping Miranda and Kai? I might be wrong, but that was shared look, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They referred to themselves as sisters. Do we really want to go?
I'm in Florida right now. No one cares.
Oh, I mean, look. Things happen.
You're in Kentucky. You don't give a shit.
I'm not in Kentucky.
Oh, what?
It's not that
Where
fucking bad.
There we go. We just lost people. Yeah, no, that probably. I'll just say that. Yeah.
And question 3: is it true that Pfhorbear does not have a cat? If so, what's wrong with you?
So my roommate has a cat. Came with him, and I am her. Like we refer to me as her second daddy. She is the trash goblin queen, Maggie.
You're good.
Maggie's little shit. I love that cat to death, though. I've never been a cat person. Owned dogs only growing up, and a snake at one point, but never really a cat person until I lived with a cat. Now dogs suck shit. Cats rule. I'm a cat person now. 100%.
Still with my dogs.
I like animals.
All right.
All right.
Good
So
answer.
we've got Papa Awiz who's asking us things we literally just talked about. He's asking us about Cortana and Chief again. Seeing as Chief continues to be standoffish towards her still at the moment, I don't think any trust bridges between him and Cortana are going to be crossed until season 2. So that's Papa's take. The way the show is going story-wise, it still seems like Halsey has been in a full-blown negative light, and it's going to be a major catalyst for certain allegiances to shift. Chief might be almost all the way there after getting more context on this past, but so far Cortana hasn't experienced anything to make her question Halsey. He's with us. And I genuinely think episode 4 had that line about Miranda and Kai being like sisters placed deliberately to make it clear that there was no deeper context. It's like he read Mort's question. He probably did. It was right after it. But I could be wrong. Nowadays, most movies and shows tend to do this weird thing where two people of the same gender absolutely cannot just be close friends and associates. I mean, depends on the show. There's a lot of shows out there, man. It's either complete strangers or potential love interest, which is why most of the time those storylines feel forced. And once you have stuff like that feeling forced, now you cross over into the pandering territory. I genuinely don't care if the writers go whatever routes they choose to with potential love plot lines, but I hope that this show doesn't fall into that trope of pandering. So I guess you hope if they want to have like same sex love stories, that it feels earned. I go that way with any love story. I hope it feels.
I think that the most genuinely interesting thing that they could do is let Kai have feelings for Miranda, and then Miranda just 100% not reciprocate. Looks like Soul did.
Soul exploded.
Uh-oh.
But I think that would be interesting for a character like Kai who has never like felt those sorts of emotions. I know that the actress that plays Miranda is someone who identifies as other than cisgender, which was super cool for me to learn the other day. I was super into that. Yeah. But I mean, regardless, I'd be interested in it either way. But I think it could be super interesting for them to play Kai as like the girl who falls in love and then immediately gets her heart broken for the first time as like a 35-year-old adult super soldier. I think that that's an interesting potential storyline.
35-year-old puberty has got to be really
dude, rough. Couldn't imagine.
And they are setting that up kind of well too in some ways, right?
Yeah.
So and that's the thing. It's like as long
But Miranda and Riz run off together, 100%.
Write it, make it make sense, make the love story make sense. You know, that's all you want is just a good story. It doesn't matter otherwise, right? So,
yeah, and real quick, I just want to say that it's weird to use the word pandering, just because obviously you don't use that word anytime there's a heterosexual couple, right? So can we just realize that representation matters and that these things happen in real life, and that's a good thing, right? So like you guys said, as long as it's earned, who cares? Like that's as long as it's good storytelling, that's all that matters. And love is awesome regardless of, as long as it's not bestiality. So
yeah, I think he took it read like
some shit like that in there.
He was trying to get it in the he hopes it's not, that it doesn't feel like they're forcing it, that they're not forcing it, because there are some times where shows do that, but I think they do that regardless of orientation. And there are times all the time where a love story feels really ham-fisted.
I mean, I still don't know how Darth Vader and Padme, I mean, like that. Anakin? Force. Yeah, Anakin.
You should play. If you ever play Lego Star Wars and you play Episode 2, that game lampoons them in their romance so friggin' hard. Like, it shits all over Jar Jar. All Episode 1 is them shitting on Jar Jar nonstop, and then all Episode 2 is them just making fun of that stupid, terrible romance nonstop.
I mean, you want to talk about some stupid forced romance? I mean,
hate sand.
That has to be at the very top of the list. But all right.
One thing I will say is I do want to see friendships more in general. I feel like there's so much potential in a relationship that's not love and that's not familial, that is very rarely like fully explored.
I don't have any friends and it's been fine.
Panic actually make a friend. Like that still was one of the best.
Kai gets him a new pig.
Oh, dude, I was gonna say, like, when he takes out his pellet, he's gonna see a pig and cry about it.
Yeah.
But it's just one little tear, and he immediately wipes it away and shoots the pig.
And then
you can slice the bacon.
And then he eats it, cleans it, and is like.
All right, we got a few more from Daniel, but not our Daniel. Daniel, contributor Daniel, on the forum. Hi, all. I have one big and important question. How do you think the grunt is doing? The one that John threw the magnum at. Also, rip to the pink misty boy and the warthog.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
That grunt's probably, he's smarting. That I saw a funny thing on Reddit. Somebody linked. Thankfully, not the actual. It was from our Halo, but it wasn't the show discussion. It was just somebody, when he hits the grunt in the head with the magnum, grunt birthday party, confetti hits and the sound effect goes.
I bet you he has a big welt right now. Like he's like got a big.
He just hit himself under all the entrails from the jackals and played dead.
Definitely does.
It's dude, such a good. Like, legitimately, my favorite shot in this entire show is Chief just like lining it up for a fraction of a second, and then it's just like doink, fucking like, and then Grunt's dead. Like Grunt's dead. He just got hit with a 200 mile an hour baseball in the dome.
Amazing.
We are on the very last one, I believe. Yes, we are. From my good pal and burned colleague, good old Collingwood. Hello, Halo followers. If you made a game out of Halo the TV series, what kind of game would it be? GOC, still smarting from Don Cabase's burn last week.
It'd have to be a Mass Effect. Yeah.
I thought that was easy. When I read that, I was like, we're all just going to say Mass Effect because Mass Effect's the best. And Halo RPG that's like Mass Effect based on this show type of thing. Oh.
I mean, honestly, this is a different show.
You can make the choice to just kill Quan early so you don't have to worry about her.
They should make a Mass Effect type of game within the Halo universe anyways. Like that probably needs to happen at some point. Like,
they're going to have enough studios where they could realistically do whatever they offshoot they want.
There's so much lore and universe. And
once they buy EA and they own BioWare?
Guys.
Well, yeah, and Abe can learn more of the lore without having to read.
I know. Well, I mean, well, I was going to say Nick, but he doesn't even watch the cutscenes, so never mind.
No, you're going to make the cutscenes unskippable the first time you play through and force Nick to play it.
Oh man, I can't skip the cutscenes. What is this?
Oh no, we just duct tape Nick to a chair, then we play and make him watch as we play.
I have been reading the encyclopedia, but I think we're out of time. So we'll talk about
Wait, once
real quick, the kind of game that I would need to see is them to resurrect Project Hagar, which was the Mega Bloks game, but instead of it being based on the game's core canon, you do it on the TV show's canon. Mega Bloks Halo TV show, the game.
Yep.
Life is Strange Halo. Dating sim with Master Chief and some ladies and
A
guys.
survival game with Quan in the middle of a desert. Yeah.
I just kill myself every time. Every time.
It can't be Rust or Conan Exiles though, because those all start
Desert
real
Bus
nude.
style game.
It's gotta be like
Halo.
Don't survive.
Grounded
Survive Giant.
Halo.
Don't eat. What's that game called? Survive
No,
Giant.
don't starve.
Don't starve. There we go.
Don't eat.
Do starve.
All right, is that it?
That was it. That was the last question. And for the truth teller in the chat, the Forge beta, if you look at the actual image, shows as targeted September, but then season 3 is November 8th. So actual release of everything would be November 8th, but the Forge beta says target September. But yeah, that is
underneath the narrative events image.
Yep.
All
Yeah,
right,
one more
well,
episode down.
It's time to do the sign off. You know what? I know you're dying. Do you want to just hand it off to Pfhorbear?
Yes.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, hanging out with us, talking Halo with us. Mort, it was so good to see you join us for the first time ever. Thank you so much. We hope to see you back again soon. Guys, what a great TV show, huh? TV show good. Halo, XboxEra.com. Make sure you go check out patreon.com/XboxEra if you want to support us. It is definitely the best way to support us. We're working on some cool new content over there for the Patreon. So
Yeah, we're going to try to make it more worth it.
Yeah, right. But other than that, guys, thank you guys so very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, our RSS feed for the website. We have some really cool stuff coming. Like the video, share it around with some people. Rate us on any podcast service that you use to watch the show or listen to the show, rather. It really helps us out a lot. We appreciate everyone who tuned in live. We appreciate all of you listening in the future. Ooh, maybe you know more than we do by now. Guys, I'm going to hand it off. Does anyone have any projects or anything like that, Xbox Era wise, that they'd like to plug real quick? Soul, take it away, man. Where can people find you? What are you working on?
I am working on the Halo Infinite review. But they can find me on
I'll believe it when I see it.
I'm not working on much right now. I want to record a couple videos. My voice is still shot, but Jesse's working on a lot.
Yeah, Jesse, what do you got going on, man?
I'm going to play Rogue Legacy 2 and then write up the review over the weekend for Closer to Launch. Then I'm going to play Loot River, which we'll have a review on Closer to Launch. And then I'm going to play Ayuden Chronicles Rising, which we'll have a review on Closer to Launch. There's flipping 30 goddamn... So I thought this was going to be the dead period. It's not the dead period. Just keep an eye on XboxEra.com in the review section. Jesus Christ, there are too many games coming out.
Daniel, what are you working on? Where can people find you?
Keeping my head above water in real work right now, but you can find me on the forums, usually moderating. Twitter at Digital Scientist without the final I. And should be working on some cool stuff with some of our other Patreon related stuff here soon. And then OBM.
Oh God, this is going to take a month to list all these podcasts.
No. Yeah, I know. I'm like Where's Waldo with podcasts. I'll show up. Guys, just follow me on Twitter. If I pop on a podcast, I'll retweet it.
It's at Elon Musk on Twitter.
One band mother at mother MUTHA_ONE. So follow me there. Other than that, I'll be helping on the book and whatever stuff. Okay, and I'll be maybe popping on some more of your drop pods for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I'm doing right now. Head down on that. I'll probably work on another one for the season 2 stuff that we just got tonight. Guys, you can catch me anywhere you like to stalk me. It is at Pfhorbear, Pfhorbear. That is Pfhorbear. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Emphasis on the whore.
Have fun. We'll catch you next time.
Next time. You said good. That's my word.